වාණිජ, විද්‍යා, ගණිත, කලා, තාක්ෂණ වේදය, විෂය ධාරාවන් වල සියලුම විෂයන් සඳහා විශ්වවිද්‍යාල කතිකාචාර්යවරුන් සහ රජයේ පාසල්වල ප්‍රවීණ ආචාර්ය මණ්ඩලය විසින් මෙහෙයවනු ලබන දේශන නැනපවුර YouTube channel ඔස්සේ නැරඹිය හැක. ඉදිරි දේශන දැනගැනීම සඳහා නැනපවුර YouTube channel subscribe කරන්න. දැයි දූ දරුවන්ගේ අනාගත ජයග්‍රහණයට.
Hello everyone, now we are going to start today our business studies lecture. So, Madam Sanjeevani joins with us today. Then, tell the friends who could not attend today can watch today's lecture on our Nanapowra YouTube channel. So, I warmly invite our Madam who is joining with us today. Hello, Madam.
Hello, good evening everyone. All right, so we'll start the lesson today. Okay, let me share the screen. All right. Once again, good evening, children. And today our third lesson, business organization. So, okay, so this is your fourth lesson, business organization. Third lesson we have completed. So hope you can remember the first lesson, foundation of business, we completed. The second one, social responsibilities and business ethics, that we completed. Then third one, interaction between government and business, we completed. So this is our fourth lesson, business organizations, right, children? So we'll start the lesson now. First of all, I would like to introduce the term organization. What do you mean by organization? Before studying business organization, you should know what organization is. What is organization? It's kind of a social unit, children, right? Group of people joining together. They have a common goal to achieve. That is known as an organization. So you must have come across different organizations, right? School, temple, church. There are so many organizations now, right? So now we'll see if this is an organization. If you now, I told you that you might have come across different types of organization. How do you recognize this is an organization? Now these are the characteristics of formal organization, right? So what are the characteristics of formal organization? It has a goal, right? So then involves individuals, right? It has people, has an organizational structure. So this structure, children, you will be learning in detail in business management, right? When it comes to grade 13. So these are the common characteristics of a formal organization. If there is a goal, if there are individuals involved in, and if there is an organizational structure, so that means it is an organization, right? So then we'll see what business organization is. So what is this business organization? Business organizations are the enterprises engaged in production, distribution, and selling of goods and services. They also have objectives. What is the objective? Earning profits, right? And some, they don't have an objective of earning profit. What do they have? They have the non-profitable objective, just as social well-being, providing services to the society, right? So there are profitable organizations and non-profitable organizations as well, right? So business organizations can be categorized as private sector, and public sector based on their ownership, right? Privately owned and publicly owned. Okay, so now you know what organization is and what are the characteristics or what are the things included to be an organization and what business organization is. Okay, so once again, what is organization? It's a social unit made up with group of people have common objective to achieve, right? Goal to achieve. Then if it's an organization, there should be certain things like it should has a goal, involves individuals, has an organizational structure. Then if it's a business organization, business organizations are the enterprises engaged in production, distribution, and selling of goods and services. They also have objective of earning profit. Some have achieving social well-being. Okay, and then we'll see the classification of business based on this ownership. Wait, I'll share this classification. I'll show you. Give me a minute, I'll show this classification. One minute. All right, 1 minute. I'll show this to you all. Okay. Maximize this so that you can see properly. Right, so this is the classification of business organization. Hope you can see the screen, right? So now here, basically, according to the ownership, you can categorize business organizations as private sector and public sector. If it's private sector, children, there are 4 types: sole proprietorship, partnership, incorporated companies, and cooperative societies. These things come under private sector. All right, then if it's public sector, children, then businesses under central government, then businesses under provincial council, and businesses under local authorities. So if you take businesses under central government, again you can classify business as departments, state corporations, and state companies. So in this lesson, under business organizations, you will be learning all these organizations. Right, so it is throughout the lesson that we are learning about these sectors, right? So private sector and public sector, all these organizations you should know, right? So because now for the paper you don't know from where that they will test, so you need to thorough with everything. Okay, so don't worry. So from the beginning to the end, so since it's a lengthy lesson, I will be dividing this lesson and teaching one part today and the other part next week, because it's a lengthy lesson, right? Not like first few lessons. Now this 4th lesson is a bit lengthy lesson, so I have to divide this because otherwise it's difficult to do within this time span. All right, okay, so now hope you can just get an idea. So if they ask you to classify the business according to the ownership, right? So remember, according to the ownership, if they want to classify the business organization, there are 2 types: private sector and public sector. So if it's private sector, you get sole proprietorship, partnership, incorporated companies, and cooperative societies. But if it's public sector, you get businesses under provincial council, businesses under local authorities, and businesses under central government. If it's central government, you get departments, state corporations, and state companies. All right, hope that is clear. Then we'll go back to the presentation. Right. So now we'll see the first one under private sector. The first one is sole proprietorship. So if you all have done business studies for your O levels, you must have done about sole proprietorship and partnership, you must have done in a brief manner, right? But here you will be learning in detail. Okay, so now what is sole proprietorship? Right, that is single ownership business, right? It's owned by one person. Okay, so it is a single or the one person business, and it is called sole proprietorship. So now here there are some examples that I have given. Chanuli Super Center, owns by Chanuli. Dasatha Bookshop, Imalka Salon. So these things come under sole proprietorship. Okay, single ownership. Then what are the characteristics in the sole proprietorship, children? So now from the definition itself, you will get one characteristic. No, the owner provides the capital. Ownership belongs to one person. Okay, that can be taken as one. Then owner himself provides the capital because there's no one, right? Only one person. He has to put the capital. Then all managerial decisions are taken by the owner. And there's unlimited liability. What do you mean by unlimited liability? Now, suppose now if the business is bankrupt, so what you should do from your own properties, even you have to settle the debts because there's no party, there's no partnership, there's no another person, right? Only you yourself have to pay everything, right? So that means unlimited liability from your own assets, even that you have to sell, and then you have to settle the debts. Okay, and that is unlimited liability. Then there is no legal entity under the law that you will be considered, not considered as a person, not a legal entity. There is no legal entity. If someone has filed a case, you need to go from your own name, right? Not from the business organization's name. From your own name, you need to go and face the case, right? That is known as legal entity. Here, not a legal entity in the sense from your own name you need to go, right? If there is a legal entity in the sense you and your business are two different people, then you go not from your own name, your company's name, right? If there is a legal entity, that is a good term. Okay, just remember, because throughout this lesson we are learning about this legal entity. We discuss about this legal entity because some organizations they have legal entities, whereas some organizations they do not have legal entities, right? So in sole proprietorship there is no legal entity or legal personality. That is also the same as legal entity, right? There is no legal entity in the sense if someone has filed a case, you need to go from your own name, not from the business organization's name, right? And the other thing, registration is not compulsory. But if you are carrying out the business from your full name, registration is not compulsory. Otherwise, you need to register. All right. Then you enjoy the profits and you need to bear losses also alone, right? Because there's no one. If you invest and you get the profit alone. And if there is a loss, that also you need to bear up alone. Okay, and if there is a risk, that is also you need to face alone. Okay, and there's no continuity, children. So what do you mean by that? Now in case if you want to shut down, you need to shut down, right? So if the owner dies, then the business organization will stop from that time itself. So there is no continuity, right? So continuity is not there. So other organizations, when we discuss in future, you can see if the owner is there or not, that the organization work goes, right? But here there's no continuity, right? There's no continuous existence. Okay, and the other thing, accounting is also not compulsory. You don't need to have accounting books and you don't need to mention what the profit or loss or SOFP, nothing that you can just, it's not compulsory. But for your purposes, you need to actually know what you gain. So for that, for your purposes, you can have that, right? You can record, but it is not compulsory, right? And not liable for the taxes also from the name of the business. From the business, you don't need to pay, but from your income, you need to pay income tax, but not from the business. Okay, so these are the characteristics in a sole proprietorship. So once again, what are the characteristics, children? The owner provides the capital by himself. All managerial decisions are taken by himself. Unlimited liability. There's no legal entity. Registration is also not compulsory. Profit enjoys by the owner as well as losses bears by the owner. He faces risks alone. There's no continuity. Accounting is also not compulsory and is not liable for taxes from the name of the business. Okay, so these are the characteristics in a sole proprietorship. Then we'll see the advantages by having this sole proprietorship. So as every day I tell you, like if you are learning business studies, you need to think that you have your own business, right? Now suppose that you have a business, you are a sole proprietor. So what are the advantages of having this sole proprietorship business? It is easy to start, okay, easy to initiate, and all the profit also to you, right? Profit you can enjoy alone, right? You don't want to divide that, no, that is also an advantage, right? And you can take decisions alone, no interferences, right? If you want to do something, you can do it, okay? Ability of independent decision making. And few rules and regulations are also applicable, children, not like companies. Incorporated companies, a bit, more strict rules are there. But comparing with them, sole proprietorship, only few rules. Okay, and you can have the business secrets within yourself because there's no other party to share, no, right? So your business secrets, you can keep it yourself. All right. Then termination of the business is also convenient. If you want to shut down the business, so next day you can shut down. Okay. And possibility of maintaining direct relations with the customers. Because now just take a retailer, right, nearby shop, right? If that person is the only person that they are in that shop. Okay, so that like he when you go and buy something, he will have the conversation with you, right? Now he knows what you prefer. Okay, so ability of keeping the business information confidentially and possibility of maintaining direct relationship with the customers because he knows what you prefer. So according to that, he can ask the supplier to provide the products. Okay, and control is also convenient, right? If he wants to control, he can just control because even though it's a single ownership, he can have some employees. If just take a retail shop outlet, right? You can have a helper. So, but controlling is convenient. All right. So these are the advantages of sole proprietorship business. Then if you take limitations as well as advantages, there are limitations as well. What are the limitations in sole proprietorship? Unlimited liability of the owner is a limitation, right? Because now in bankruptcy, now if you shut down the business, then you have to pay from your own assets, right? So that is a limitation, a disadvantage. The problems or the difficulties will increase when needed the additional capital. Now, if you want to expand the business, but there's no way to get more capital because only yourself, right? So it's difficult to gather more capital. And possibility of the decision made by the owner himself being unsuccessful because his decision, there's no other people there to tell the outcome of that. Okay, so whether it's good or whether it's bad, there's no suggestions from others, right? Because only you, right? So if it goes wrong, then you have to bear that loss even, right? And not a legal entity. As I told you, now you might be knowing what legal entity is. So not a legal entity is also a limitation because when you go and face the case from your personal name, so it's not good for the goodwill, right? And no continuity, right? If you if the sole proprietor dies, then should shut down the business. There's no continuity. Okay, then management is also been inconvenient with the expansion of the business because only one person, he has to look after everything, right? So management is also a bit complicated. And the other thing, he has to bear losses alone. That is also a limitation, right? So we discussed characteristics of sole proprietorship, advantages and limitations of sole proprietorship. Then, how do you register the sole proprietorship business? Now, I told you, if you are running the business from your full name, you don't need to register. If you are not having, carrying out the business not from your full name, then you have to register, right? Where do you register? Now it says, if a sole proprietorship business is carried on in a name other than the full name of the owner, then it's compulsory to register the business name in the provincial council. Where do you register? In the provincial council, right? Under which act? Business Names Ordinance number 6 of 1980. So this is something very important. This act is important, right? So under which act that you need to register? Business Names Ordinance number 6 of 1918. All right. So on the practical note, this registration can be performed at the relevant divisional secretarial office in your area, right? Rather than going far in your area, the divisional secretarial even, you can go and register. Okay. So once again, if you are not carrying out from your own name, the full name, then it's compulsory to register. You need to register under the Business Name Ordinance number 6 of 1918. This act is very important. Then what is the procedure to register sole proprietorship? First thing that you need to obtain an application form. Right from where that you get the application form? Divisional Secretariat. Okay, in your area. You need to obtain an application form from the Divisional Secretarial Office at the area that you are going to have the business. Then after that, you need to obtain report for the registration from Grama Niladhari also. You need to get Grama Niladhari's report also. Then after that, you need to complete both, and with the registration fee that you need to submit everything to the Divisional Secretariat. Then if you have fulfilled everything, he will issue the certificate of registration. Okay, Divisional Secretarial Office, they will issue the certificate of registration. Okay, so this is the procedure to register sole proprietorship. So once again, what is the act relevant for this? Business Names Ordinance number 6 of 1980. All right, so the procedure: first, you need to obtain an application form from the Divisional Secretariat. Then you need to obtain a report from your Grama Niladhari. Then you need to submit both the applications and the report and the application, and along with the registration fee to the Divisional Secretariat. Then the Divisional Secretary will issue the certificate of registration if you have fulfilled all the requirements. All right, so we are done with sole proprietorship. So we have completed that part. Now, what is the other business organization that comes under private sector? Partnership. So now the next one is partnership. So what is partnership? The relationship between the individuals who carry out businesses with a profit motive. That's partnership. Okay, so now here the example that I have given, Gunawardhan and Sons, Don Carolis and Sons, right? These are partnerships. Okay, there are individuals, not only one person. Then what are the characteristics in a partnership according to the definitions given there? Profit generating objective. The existence of the business activity, right? There are some business activities you do. Existence of individuals, there are individuals, right? And they have a mutual relationship. Then we'll see the characteristics of the partnership. What are the characteristics of partnership? There should be minimum 2 and maximum 20 partners. All right, minimum 2 and maximum 20. And they should have an agreement between the partners. Okay, and they should have an agreement on profit sharing. Every partner is an agent and a head of himself and other partners. This is known as mutual agency, right? This is also very much important. Sometimes they ask, what is mutual agency? What is mutual agency? every partner is an agent and a head of himself and other partners. That means if you are a partner in your partnership, if you do something that if it's if it's a problem, so that will affect you and as well as to the whole partnership, right? And for the other partners as well, right? If you do something wrong, that will come to you as well as to the other partners and to the whole organization or the partnership, right? And the existence of any kind of business affair, anything that you can do as a partnership. Okay, right. So these are the specific characteristics of the partnership. Then, partnership agreement. What is partnership agreement? Partnership agreement is the terms and conditions agreed on by the partners. This will be, you will be having this agreement at the beginning of a partnership, so that it is very much easy, right? Before starting the partnership, you can have an agreement with the partners. Now, there are ways of having this agreement, children. What are the ways of having this agreement? You can have orally, or the written agreement you can have, or implied. So oral, of course, oral, verbal one, right? Okay, you will get this part and you will get this part and I'll get this part. So you can have orally, or else you can have a written agreement, right? So in writing that you give, okay, this portion is to you, this portion is to me, and likewise. What is implied then? Implied is you don't have the written one, you don't have the oral one, but you show that agreement from your actions, right? From your action, you show that there is a partnership. Okay, that is implied. All right. So there are three ways of having a partnership agreement: oral, written, and implied. Then we'll see partnership deed. What is this partnership deed? Now there is something called partnership agreement also. Partnership agreement is the terms and conditions agreed by the partners at the beginning of the partnership. Partnership deed is the written agreement, children, right? If this agreement is in the written form, that is known as partnership deed, right? So it is known as partnership constitution as well. Okay, right. Then reasons for the importance of partnership deed. Why this partnership deed is important, children? We can have no without the deed. Why is it? You can solve any disagreement or conflicts, right? If you have a deed, right? If there is a disagreement or if there is a conflict among partners, you can show this and you can tell them, here, no, you agreed to this part. Okay, here you have signed here. So it is a proof, okay, and convenience in carrying out the partnership activities. All right, so these are the reasons for the importance of partnership deed. Then what are the information included in partnership deed? Basic information should be there, children, just as the name of the business, names and addresses of the partners, right? Type of the business or the nature of the business that you do, the time duration of the partnership. Sometimes to fulfill one activity, you must have formed a partnership. So after that, after completion of you can dissolve the partnership, right? So time duration is also important. So basic information about the business you need to include. Then details about the investment of capital. Details about the investment of capital also should be included, right? Information on sharing profit and losses, that is also included. Then objective of the partnership, right? That is also should be there. Then limitation on partners drawing. Now partners, they can take the money at home, no, right, for their personal use. So there should be a limitation for that. This much only that you can take home, right? Likewise, they can have a limitation on partners drawing. So these are the information included in partnership deed, right? And you can add these things also to this partnership deed. What else? Information about interest on What is the rule? Admission important. Things should be there. What is the section 24 part?
Wait some minutes.
All right, children. Sorry, there was a network issue. All right. So we'll start from this section again. Section 24 of the Partnership Ordinance 1890. So when there is no written agreement, children, or when there is a dispute Okay, when there is no written agreement or when there is a dispute which is not related to disputed, stated in the agreement, it is necessary to follow this section 24 of Partnership Ordinance 1890. Okay, hope you have got this clearly, right? Now suppose that you don't have a written agreement in the organization, right? And there is a dispute, but that you have not stated in the agreement, even though that you have the agreement, in that agreement you have not included that particular dispute, what you should take, right? So in such scenario, you need to act according to section 24 of Partnership Ordinance 1890. All right. So then, what are the points that included in this partnership ordinance? Right now, sometimes they might ask you like this way, right? So they can give a point as profit and losses. How do they share profit and losses or profit or losses when there is no written agreement? Then you need to know, according to section 24 of Partnership Ordinance, how do they do so? Then you have to know this properly, right? How do they share profit and losses? They share equally, right? So now, according to section 24 of Partnership Ordinance, profit and losses are shared equally among partners. So in the event of dissolution of the partnership, then partners have a right to get an equal share of the capital. Now suppose that you are going to going for a dissolution, right? Then what you should do? Every partner will get an equal share. Okay, and if any expenditure incurred by the partner personally, now you as a partner, you have put additional machine or whatever, right? Then on behalf of the partnership, it can be reimbursed, right? So if you have additionally paid them something for something, you can get that back, right? Then partners are entitled for 5% interest for the money invested addition to the agreed capital. So as partners, they have to put initial capital, no, each and everyone. But if they have put additionally some amount, additional capital, then they are entitled for 5% interest, right? Then no partner is entitled to an interest on capital. That is also important. So under section 24, there's no partner can get interest for the capital that they have invested. Then no partner is entitled to an interest on capital, and as well as every partner has the right to participate in the management of the business. So if you want to participate in the management, you can do so, right? So you have a right to do that. Then no partner has the right to receive a salary for the service that you provide for the partnership. So suppose that you are providing a service, you can't get a salary for that. Okay, and then a new partner cannot be admitted to the partnership without the consent of other partners, right? Suppose that you want to admit another new partner, you need to get the consent from each and every partners, right? Then the regular disagreement which occurs in the partnership can be solved by taking the decisions made by the majority, right? So you can come to a conclusion by asking several opinions from the partners. The majority, if they come to a conclusion, you can take that, right? So anything which changes the nature of the partnership can be put into effect only if there is an agreement among all the partners, right? Then there is another one. While the books of accounts of the partnership should be kept at the head office, a partner has the right to inspect them at any time. So if you want to inspect the books, accounting books, you can do so. Books are there at the head office, you can just observe or you can just investigate everything. Okay, so these are the things that is there under section 24 of Partnership Ordinance. All right, then there is another thing. Anything which changes the future of the partnership can be put into effect only if there is an agreement among all the partners, right? So now suppose that you are going to do some changes in the partnership. You can't do it, alone. You need to get the consent from partners, right? So you need to ask partners, and you have to get a proper common conclusion. Then while the books of accounts of the partnership should be kept at the head office, a partner has the right to inspect, right? So this I gave earlier also, right? So these things you need to study, children, right? Because they will not just straight away give all these things. Straight away they will not ask these things, but they will ask if they can give a case study, and they can just ask. Now there are few partners, they have formed a partnership, they don't maintain a written agreement. So now there are situations like this, then that. So how do you act? So then these things will affect, right? If there is no written agreement, section 24 of partnership ordinance will affect. So you need to know how do they share profit, right? Whether they will, whether the partners will get interest for the capital, right? For the additional capital, whether they will get the interest, whether the partners will get a salary, right? All these things you should know. Okay, this is something very important. Then procedure to register a partnership, that is also a same as sole proprietorship, children, right? There's nothing different, right? But because I need to show you this, because I just gave that again the same stuff, but only thing that you need to change is not the sole proprietorship but the partnership. Okay, so now if you take the procedure of partnership, what you should do, you need to obtain the application form from the divisional secretarial office in the area. Then along with that, you need to again take the report from Gram Niladhari. So both you need to fill, and then you need to submit to the divisional secretarial with the fees, right? Then if you have fulfilled everything, they will issue the certificate of registration, right? So this is similar as the sole proprietorship. There's no difference. Then what are the advantages of partnership business? What are the advantages? Easy to commence. So just as the sole proprietorship, children, so this is also easy to commence, right? And you can dissolve easily. Now, when you compare with companies, incorporated companies, it is a bit difficult, no? But here, you can easily dissolve, right? Then you can gather more capital also, because partners are there, no? There are multiple skills and talents of people. You can make use of these things, right? And the liability also will be distributed among many partners. Now, if it's a sole proprietorship, you have to bear the losses alone. The liability also unlimited for you. You have to do it alone. But here, in this case, the partners are there, right? So you can distribute the liabilities among themselves. Okay, and through collective liability, enthusiasm and efficiency will be enhanced. That is also there, right? So you don't want to bother, you don't have a heavy load, right? You can just, among your partners, you can just, collectively, you can face for the problems. Then there are limitations as well. The liability of the partners are unlimited, even though that will share, right? But the liabilities are unlimited. Okay, from your personal assets, even you need to settle the debts. And the disagreement and the disputes between the partners also will adversely affect the business, right? Then there is no continuity. Okay, once the project is done, you can stop the partnership, or you can conclude the partnership, right? And all the partners are liable to the conduct of a single partner. Okay, so that is also a limitation of a partnership. So if someone has done something wrong, that will affect you as well as the partnership. That is a limitation. Okay, right. Now we'll see the differences between sole proprietorship and partnership. Yes, what are the differences? Now in the paper, like, now you're targeting the A-level paper, no, right? So when they ask something like differences or contrast, compare, you need, if you want to get more marks, right? Easily, if you want to score marks, you need to draw a table and do it rather than writing as a paragraph. Okay, so because it's very much clear, children. So keep that in your mind. right? When they're asking the differences, when they're asking for you to contrast or compare, just draw a table and do that. So easily you can score marks there, right? So now here they're asking the differences between sole proprietorship and partnership. So now the criteria, what are the criteria that you can take? You can take number of members, capital invested, management, then liability, entitlement to profit or losses, decision making, and dissolution of business, and termination. So these are the criteria we take when comparing these businesses. So if you take number of members, the sole proprietorship, only one person, but partnership, 2 to 20. If you take capital investment, sole proprietorship invested by owner alone. Partnership invested by the partners. If you take management, it is performed by the owner himself. So partnership performed by the partners. If you take the liability, you are the only person who's responsible. Sole proprietorship, solely responsible. Partnership, collectively responsible. Entitlement to profit or losses. Sole proprietorship enjoys alone. Partnership, you share equally. Share equally and collectively. Then decision making, sole proprietorship, independent decision making. Partnership, collective decision making. Then if you take the dissolution of business or the termination, sole proprietorship, there is no dissolution. Termination of the business can be done as desired, right? If he wants, he can shut down the business, right? But partnership, dissolution may be voluntarily or as a result of court order, right? Voluntarily, you can, come to a conclusion. You can dissolve, you can discuss with the partners and you can dissolve the partnership. Or else you can go to courts and according to court order, you can dissolve the partnership. So these are the differences between sole proprietorship and partnership. All right, so we are done with sole proprietorship and partnership. So we have another one, incorporated companies. So, right, we are discussing business organizations, right? So first of all, I showed you the classification of business organization based on ownership, right? So based on ownership, there are two types, privately owned and publicly owned. So under private sectors, now we have discussed sole proprietorship and partnership. Now the companies. Now we'll see incorporated companies. So incorporated companies, it is a collection of individuals incorporated under Companies Act number 7 of 2007, right? So this is the definition of companies, right? Collection of individuals, right? They are incorporated under Companies Act number 7 of 2007. Now here I have given some examples for incorporated companies. Aralia Company Limited, Pratibha Company Limited, right? So these are some of the incorporated companies. All right, then we'll see the characteristics of incorporated companies. Now, how do you know this is an incorporated company? There should be some characteristics. What are those? Being an independent entity, right? Incorporated under the Company Act, right? So it is an independent entity, right? The people who are working there and the business organization are two different, right? Becoming an independent legal entity. There is a legal personality, children. This is known as legal personality, right? There is a legal entity or legal personality. All right. Then there is a continuous existence. Even the shareholder dies, it doesn't matter. They go, right? They have the business. That is continuous existence. The liability of members or shareholders being limited. Sorry, right? The shareholders' liability is limited according to the shares that they have bought. Sorry. Then accumulation of the capital through share issues. Then ability of transferring shares, you can transfer shares. The management being carried out by the board of directors. There is a board of directors to do the management. right? Not like sole proprietorship, not like partnership. They have a board of directors, right? So those are the characteristics of incorporated companies. Then we'll see the advantages of limited companies. What are the advantages? You can raise large amount of capital. By issuing shares, you can gain a large amount of capital on children. The possibility of beginning large scale businesses. You can touch the large scale businesses. Okay. Ability of recruiting a smart management team, right? Ability to attract new investors also because of the limited liability. Then the death or resignation of shareholder does not have any adverse effect on the business. No, that is also an advantage because you can continue the business. Then ability to assemble qualified and skillful human resources. Okay, and the business also, there is a legal entity, so that is also can be taken as advantage. Then we'll take the limitations. What are the limitations of limited companies? Legal impact is strict because strict rules and regulations are there, right? Then procedure also a bit complicated, not like sole proprietorship and partnership. Procedure is bit complicated and bit expensive, right? And the voting power, there is a voting power that is based on the number of shares that you have bought. Now, if the shareholder, if now suppose that you have bought only one share, I have bought 10 shares. So only one time you can vote, but I can vote 10 times. So what do you mean by that? Minority shareholders are not being strong enough, right? So they can't, influence for management decisions. So, and the other thing, profit is subjected to double taxation because tax is based on the profit of the company as well as dividends. Sorry. All right. So profit, you have to double the profit is based on double taxation, right? Profit of the company as well as the dividends that you pay. And the procedure of dissolution also complicated, not like sole proprietorship, not like partnership. This is bit complicated and bit expensive. When initiating also bit expensive and complicated, when dissoluting also complicated. Then we'll see this part. The incorporation of a company should take place according to the Companies Act of a particular country. Right, so if you are going to incorporate here in Sri Lanka, you need to adhere to the act which is relevant here in Sri Lanka. Right, so what is the act relevant here? Companies Act number 7 of 2007. You need to register your business according to this act. All right. Then what is the procedure to be followed when incorporating a company? Now, you know how to register a sole proprietorship. You know how to register a partnership. So what is the procedure when it comes to incorporating a company? First thing that you have to register the name of the company, right? First you need to choose the name and then you need to know whether it is not a common name. It can't be taken by another company, right? It has to be unique to yourself, your company, right? You have to choose a proper name, then you have to register the name of the company. So if it is confirmed that the proposed name of the company is not similar or identical as the name of an existing company, you can submit the documents given below. What are the documents? Application for the registration of the company, articles of association, right? And the statement containing the consent of founder to act as the directors. The statement containing the consent of the founder to act as secretaries. Right? These documents you need to submit, children. So sometimes they ask, what are the documents to be submitted when registering an incorporated company? What are the documents? Application for registration of the company, articles of association. I will explain in detail what articles of association is. In briefly, I'll tell you what articles of association is. It contains all the rules and regulations of the company. That is the most important document in the company. Articles of Association contains all the rules and regulations applicable to the organization. So once again, application of the company, so registration of the company, then articles of the article of association, then what is the third document? Statement containing the consent of each founder to act as directors. They should like to act as directors, no? So they should give their consent letter that they are willing to act as directors. That letter should be there. There should be a statement containing the consent of founder to act as secretaries, right? There should be a founder that he also should give his consent letter saying that he is willing to act as secretaries, right? These documents should be submitted, right? Then if you have submitted everything, what will happen then? The registrar of the companies will, check all these things. If all the documents are in order, he will issue the certificate of incorporation, right? So these two documents are important under this lesson, children. Okay, articles of association and certificate of incorporation. So once again, what is articles of association? It contains all rules and regulations of a company. Sorry. Then what is certificate of incorporation? Now, if you have fulfilled all the requirement, then registrar, the registrar of companies will issue the certificate of incorporation for you to start up the business. All right. Then we'll see in detail. I told you, so that I will give these two articles of association. What is articles of association? It contains the objectives of company, the rights and responsibilities of the shareholders, information about the management and administration. Basically, all the rules and regulations of the company. Okay, then what is certificate of incorporation? After the registrar of companies has satisfied himself that all the documents are in order, then the relevant fees have been paid, he will issue the certificate of incorporation for you to start up the business. Okay, I think it's clear. Then, as per the Companies Act number 7 of 2007, the following types of companies can be incorporated. Right, now we'll see what are the companies can be incorporated under the Companies Act. 1 minute, I will share the screen. Right, so I think it's clear. Incorporated companies. Now this is the flow chart of incorporated companies, children. Right? So these are the companies incorporated under the Act number 7 of 2007. What are those? Limited companies, unlimited companies, companies limited by guarantee. Those are the main three companies. Limited companies, unlimited companies, companies limited by guarantee. So limited companies, once again, you can divide as private limited companies, public limited companies, and offshore. Then public limited companies, again, you can divide as listed companies and or non-listed companies. So another name given for these listed companies as quoted companies and non-quoted. So this is the flow chart of incorporated companies. Okay, right. Then once again, right. So now under this flow chart, we'll take the first one, private limited company. What is private limited company? Companies that do not have the authority of issuing shares or the securities to the general public, right? And they have a minimum 1 and 50 shareholders, maximum 50, right? That's private limited companies. Okay, so I told you, there are main three companies, private, public, offshore. So private limited companies, they do not have the authority to sell shares to the general public, right? Only they can sell shares with their family members or the friends, relations. Okay, that's private limited companies. They can sell shares among their family members or the relations. They can't sell shares to the general public. Okay, so the main thing is they have only one, minimum one, and maximum 50 shareholders, right? Then what are the characteristics of private limited companies? So you can take the first one as minimum number of shareholders is 1 and the maximum is 50. Right? So this maximum does not include the shareholding staff members of the companies. Right? Then the minimum number of directors also 1. Then shares of the company cannot be sold to the public. That is also one of the characteristics. Then without assuring the credit rating of the company, the profits can be distributed as per the desire of all shareholders. You don't want to go for the credit rating, right? According to your wish, you can just share the profit, right? Now, here are some of the private limited companies examples that I have given. Central Depository Private Limited, Lanka Clear Private Limited, Sri Lanka Electricity Private Company Limited. So these are the examples for private limited company. Then next one, public limited companies. What are these public limited companies? Companies having the authority of issuing shares to the general public. Right? So whereas private limited companies, they cannot sell shares to the general public. But public limited companies, you can sell shares or the debentures to the general public. Right? So they have minimum 1 shareholder and maximum unlimited. Right? So private limited company maximum 50. But here maximum unlimited. Okay, so this is about public limited companies. So now we'll see the characteristics of public limited companies. They have minimum 1 shareholder and maximum unlimited number of shareholders. Right, directors minimum 2. They can issue shares to the general public. Insolvency test is needed prior to distribution of dividends to the shareholder. That is also there. All right, then I told you the public limited companies are 2 parts, right? Listed and non-listed, or quoted or non-quoted. So what are listed public companies? If the company, the public company is listed, registered at the share market, Colombo Stock Exchange, right? That is known as listed public companies. If it is non-listed, if it is not registered at the Colombo Stock Exchange, they are non-listed companies or non-quoted companies. Now here, there is a way of writing the name of these companies. If it's a listed company, here PLC, you write as this, right? DFCC Bank, PLC. So if they have given this name and if they ask whether it's quoted or non-quoted or whether it's listed or non-listed, you should recognize. If they have given the letters PLC, that means that is listed public companies. If they have given just company limited, so that means non-listed. Okay, so there is a difference. From the name itself, you need to get that properly. Then the other one is offshore companies. What are offshore companies? Companies incorporated in a particular country, but having the business premises outside that country. Right? Those are offshore companies. So now here, they are registering here in Sri Lanka and incorporating here. Right? But the business premises, they are not having here in Sri Lanka. They are having the business premises in another country. That is offshore companies, right? So if they are going to have in, suppose that in USA, so they need to, adhere to the rules and regulations which is applicable in USA as well. Sorry. Okay. Now I have given some examples. Asia Pacific Company, that is an offshore company, right? Get it properly. Offshore companies incorporated in a particular country, but having the business premises in another country. Then the opposite, and the other thing is unlimited companies. What do you mean by unlimited companies? liability of shareholder is unlimited, right? Normally it's limited, no, I told you, according to the number of shares that they have bought. But unlimited companies, liability of shareholders is unlimited, right? So that will mention there in articles of association. Liability of the shareholders not being limited to the value of the shares that they have issued, right? They are unlimited companies. Then what is companies limited by guarantee? So where an issue of share does not take place. Now companies, normally they issue shares. Private limited companies, they issue shares to their family members or the relations. Public limited companies, they issue shares to the general public. But companies limited by guarantee, they do not issue shares, right? But the liability of the members is limited to the guaranteed amount as stated in the articles of association, right? So those companies are known as companies limited by guarantee. There's only one company is limited by guarantee in Sri Lanka, that is Colombo Stock Exchange. They don't sell shares, right? Then what are the characteristics of these companies limited by guarantee? They don't issue shares, no, and that is one characteristic. What is the next one? The extent of the contribution of each member, how much that each member should contribute, right? Or in the winding of the company, when they are dissoluting the company, so how much that they should contribute, that has to be specifically mentioned in the articles of association, right? And here the minimum number of members being 2 and maximum is unlimited, right? And sharing of profit also, that will not perform. Okay, they don't share profit also. They establish of focusing on public purposes, public welfare. Okay, so these are the characteristics. Then what is overseas companies? There is another one called overseas companies. So overseas companies are the opposite of offshore companies. So what are offshore companies? Incorporated here in Sri Lanka, having the business premises in another country. So overseas companies that is established in Sri Lanka but has been incorporated outside Sri Lanka, right? So they are registered, incorporated in another country, but having the business premises here in Sri Lanka. Opposite of offshore is overseas, right? So this is known as foreign companies as well. So the foreign company that has been established in Sri Lanka must submit details about itself within a period of a month, okay, to the register of companies. The register of companies will inspect all these documents submitted, right? And if it's satisfied during that course of 1 month, the name will be added to the list of foreign companies, right? So as a registered foreign company. So HSBC is an overseas company, okay? Then criteria to be followed when different types of companies are compared. So this I have given earlier also, right? So now when it comes for comparison, right now you are trying to compare private limited companies and public limited companies. So based on what criteria that you will do that? Number of members, liability, the raising of capital, administration and management. So these are the criteria. Right now we'll see private limited company and public limited company that I have compared based on those criteria. So what's the first one? Number of members. Private limited company, minimum 1, maximum 50. Public limited company, minimum 1, maximum unlimited. Then the liability, private limited company, limited to the value of shares they have purchased. Public limited company, limited to the value of shares that they have purchased. There's no much difference in that. Capital raising, private limited company, shares can't be issued to the general public. Public limited companies, you can sell shares to the general public. Then administration and management, private limited company, carried out by board of directors, right? So there's minimum 1 director. Public limited company carried out by board of directors, minimum 2 directors, right? So these are the comparisons based on these criteria. Okay, So children, so now we have discussed up to the public limited companies, right? So we discussed private limited companies, public limited companies. Public limited companies, two types of companies we discussed, quoted, non-quoted, and then offshore companies, overseas companies, companies limited by guarantee, right? Okay, so then the next one is cooperatives. So from cooperatives onwards, that I will be doing next week, because I told you it's a lengthy lesson, right? So I don't think that these 2 hours, from these 2 hours, I don't think that we can complete the lesson. So then before starting the lesson also, I told you that I'm going to divide these two into two, and then I'll be teaching one part today and the other part next week. All right. So from here, the other part I will be discussing next week, right? Next Monday. All right. So if you have any questions, like when now this will go to wait, it's here. Okay. So then if you have anything, any questions, anything to clarify, any doubts, you can just send through the chat box. Now, if you you can put your comments in the YouTube when it goes, right? So then I would like to see your suggestions and everything, so that I can add to my lesson anything that if you want more, right? Since since I go paper evaluation, so I know that the structure of the paper, and if you want to know anything about that, even you can ask. So after completing all these units, that I thought of having a question session, so that you can enhance your knowledge to write the answers and all right. So then okay, then thank you. Get good comments. Right, I prefer if you can put all these things there in the video when it goes. Okay, children, so thank you for joining, and hope to see you all next week. So to continue the rest of this lesson, thank you very much for joining.
Thank you so much, madam. Also, I must say that our children can watch the earlier lectures from our Nanapur YouTube channel. And also, those who are not yet joined to our Telegram group can click the link on our YouTube channel and join our Telegram group, as well as you can find WhatsApp groups links from Telegram group. Then you can join for WhatsApp groups also, because we are sending links, tunes, and all to our WhatsApp groups and Telegram group. And don't forget to subscribe our Nanapura YouTube channel. Once again, we thank our madam for joining with us today, and we invite all our children to continue to be together with Nanapura. Then we will meet again with another lecture. Thank you.
වාණිජ විද්‍යා ගණිත කලා තාක්ෂණ වේදය විෂය ධාරාවන් වල සියලුම විෂයන් සඳහා විශ්වවිද්‍යාල කතිකාචාර්යවරුන් සහ රජයේ පාසල්වල ප්‍රවීණ ආචාර්ය මණ්ඩලය විසින් මෙහෙයවනු ලබන දේශන නැනපවුර YouTube channel ඔස්සේ නැරඹිය හැක. ඉදිරි දේශන දැනගැනීම සඳහා නැනපවුර YouTube channel subscribe කරන්න. දැයි දූ දරුවන්ගේ අනාගත ජයග්‍රහණයට